Hey guys, I've got something really cool to share with you today. Sergey said that he's going to be releasing the version 5 boards. Now we've had this in the hopper since before Christmas, and I can finally tell you about this gun, why it's only got 2 buttons. There is a tiny hole right here, and the other button is hidden in there. Now this is your pulse rate button, and the reason I did this is because the version 5 boards are going to be user selectable for the pulse. And what that means is with the auto pulse boards, it would switch the pulse rate as you changed your rate of fire. So each rate of fire would have a preset pulse rate on it. And those numbers, to be quite honest with you, will only really work in a setup like this with a really big battery pack. And it will run the entire, from whatever it starts at all the way up to 8,000. Now, the reason we did this is because if you want to run your gun all the way up to 8,000, you can't port out your air intake. Now this air intake, it's got a screen in there, and behind the screen there's a tiny hole. There's a tiny hole. It probably won't show up on this camera, but I've showed it to you guys before. It's down in there. I doubt you can see it, but it's on the bottom. Now, if you want to get it up to, say, 5K, you can port this out, and you can add a high flow valve to it to give you just massive power, up to about 5,000 rounds a minute, without going with the huge battery pack. And these are the internal adapters. You'll probably be able to see this better, but they've got 2 holes in them, and they're about, I'd say 1/8 of an inch each. So this does not limit your flow like this one does. And then again, you can also put in the high flow valves. But even though this board, the board in here, it's got all the settings as a 4K board and then some, the problem is if you want to get it to work beyond about 5 or 6K, you have to start dropping the pulse. And that equates to less power in each shot. So he's calling these SPS version 5s, and can't remember off the top of my head what that means, but that's what it means. Now, what these do, the way these operate, is it's kind of like it's user programmable, which is really cool. I came up with this idea, a while back, and I played hell getting Sergey to build me these boards. I've still got 2 of these boards, but they're not going to hit the market for a little while. So just be aware that I've got 2 of these available. Now these are 8K, and the ones that he's going to be putting out are going to be 5K boards, and they'll work with your 14500s that I recommend. But getting back to how it works, the pulse, whatever setup you have, whatever valve you're running. See, I found if you change one thing, anything like the valve, your air intake, the length of the barrel, the voltage, if you change any one of those things, it's going to throw your pulse rate off. So that's why the 8K auto pulse board is set up the way it is. Now with these, you select a fire rate, and then you go through your pulse settings, starting kind of low. I think these are already preset. I think that they might have the same settings as the auto pulse boards do to get you in the ballpark, but you can bump it up, and these have half millisecond increments. So you bump it up to where you get the desired power before you start running into timing issues, and that'll give you the most power in each shot. And then when you cycle to the next rate of fire, you do the same thing, and it remembers what setting you had it on. I'm probably going to get some simplified versions that'll be just 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Sergey told me that later today he is going to put some information up on eBay about it. Those are the boards that have a lot more rates of fire if you're interested in that. So basically the SPS board will work on all the platforms, you know, with whatever batteries you want to use. You can even use these boards with stock batteries if you have your jumper in the right position with a stock magazine. Now, of course, you're not going to get the kind of power that you would, and you're not going to be able to go up past about probably 1,000 rounds a minute. But the fact is that you get to program it. See, with the older boards, you could do that. You could do that, no problem. But then anytime you change your rate of fire, it would revert to the other setting. And then, you know, with a whole bunch of settings, how are you going to remember what's what? And I'm not a big fan of pushing buttons all day long, just personally. But yeah, I mean, this is basically the end-all say-all. And like I say, I've got 2 of these left. So guys, don't get mad at me for those of y'all I recently did work for. I've still got 4K simplified boards that are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And that still, in my opinion, is basically the most tactical board out there. And I do have 8K auto pulse boards. I'm probably going to get those reprogrammed. So we're kind of phasing out 8K. It was more or less just to see what it would do. And I tell you, we did not reach the limit because I got 8K to work. So maybe down the line we'll just, for kicks and giggles, go for 10K. All right, guys, hope you enjoyed. Later.